What is going on, everybody? We got a triple box coming to you today. We got Jason Aponte to my right. We got Steph Sanchez below from the 49K podcast. We're fresh off of training camp day 8. What was your overall takeaway with pads coming back on? We'll start with you, Jason.
Today it was really good to see guys get back out there, pads popping. You get to see a little bit more in terms of physicality. The offensive line I felt took a step up today. There's no coincidence that Nick Bosa didn't play today, so that kind of plays into that. But everything overall seems to be moving in a good direction, and I think the Trey Lance, for better or worse, actually throws better with pads, which is kind of insane to think about, right?
Yeah. Jordan out there real loud in the background. We can hear him. How
He's a
how'd
good
you feel about
storyteller.
today's? How did you feel about today's Steph?
Overall, I thought it was a bit of a slower day today in the sense that there wasn't anything too flashy. Um, and yeah, as Jason mentioned, the offensive line seemed to have a better time keeping this defensive line at bay, which, of course, no Bosa, no Kinlaw is going to do that for you. But it was good to at least see the offense with a decent offensive line and with Trey Lance getting a little more extra time in the pocket and see what he was able to do today with that.
Yeah, it was like one of the first times in training camp that we actually got to see some like consistent pockets being built around Trey, and it was nice to see. And a big point of emphasis has been the interior offensive line. Obviously, there's a rotation going on at center, but Jason, what did you see from Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford today?
I mean, I'll leave it to you to talk about things like that. Again, like we kind of had this conversation before, like while me and Steph went to get pizza afterwards. When everybody asks questions about certain things, I want to normalize saying I don't know and I wasn't watching. So I will defer that back to you because while I was watching wide receivers get off against, secondary, what Trey Lance was doing, it's really kind of hard to focus in on all three of those things at the same time. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I knew exactly what Burford and Banks did. And anybody who says that they have a grasp on everything going forward, like that's pretty much a lie at this point. So I will defer that back to you, and I want to normalize saying I don't know, and I don't know, and I'm sure he did a good job because you are excited. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Right, because you got to pick and choose, right? You got to pick like where you're putting your eyes. You can only watch so many players at one time. Is that the same with you, Steph? Or are you kind of deferring back to me?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, just based on the things I've heard, because again, like I haven't been watching too much of like the trenches, just like Jay mentioned. But from everything I've heard, it sounds like for Burford, it's starting to click a little bit, and he's stacking his days, so that's always good to hear.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I'll take this one. So far from today, it was obviously the best practice that both Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford had, in my opinion. And you guys alluded to it. There's no Eric Armstead. There's no Javon Kinlaw. Uh, Nick Bosa had a day off, so he didn't do a whole lot. But it was good seeing the unit up front really be able to work. And Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, able to anchor in their pass sets, do everything that they need to do. It was really good to see. And again, giving Trey Lance some clean pockets to work in was something that, again, it's been a progression in pads, right? We saw the first day of pads, little messy. Second day of pads got a little bit better, and now this being the third day of pads in training camp, feels like things were starting to gel a little bit more. And I think we could all agree, right, Jason, that it takes time for the offense to gel, opposed to the defense, where their hair's on fire and they're just coming after the offense, right?
Yeah, the defense has the entire idea of what's going on. They know the formations, they know the cadence. All of those things are important. Bye, Jordan. They have all of those, they have all of those things to mess with, right? And they understand, right? These are scout team plays. They're not exactly running exactly what they're going to be running, even though there was a little bit of clue that the install is kind of being laid right now, which is a little bit surprising to hear. But the defense is always going to have those sort of advantages, especially when they know what's coming. So yeah, shout out to Nana Gang 408. Brad's taking lines for signatures, man. Like you gotta kind of like ask, ahead of time if it's okay and everything. But if you catch Brad tweeting, it's all right, man. Just ask him and he'll sign it for you. I promise.
You guys are crazy. Steph, So since I had my eyes on the offensive line, what was one of the things that stood out to you today that you got to see from today's training camp?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing for me was, obviously every day I want to see how Trey Lance is looking. And I thought that Trey Lance looked better today than he did the last 2 days for sure, which isn't saying too much, but you always want to see some like gradual improvement. Um, and of course, like we mentioned, no Kinlaw, no Bosa during 11 on 11s definitely made a difference. But I think, we got to see a more comfortable Trey Lance today. And the one thing that I noticed was he seemed more willing to take the short completions, the check downs, and pretty much what the defense was giving him, which I thought was a good development. And that's totally okay, especially during move the ball period. Any short pass, any short gain is better than an incompletion. So I thought that was good to see from him. And I continue to see, and I'm sure you guys have mentioned it as well in the past lives, that he looks comfortable even when he does move out of the pocket. Like, he keeps his eyes upfield and always trying to make a play. And so I think like he's had to realize that he can't always make a big play, but now it seems to be setting in that sometimes those shorter passes are there for you. So he seems okay doing that. Because if you've been looking at Sudfeld and what he's done, and he's been very efficient, Sudfeld has been throughout like all of camp. And a lot of the times it's because, he's taking those short completions. And then, because we talk about stacking days of practice, right? Sometimes for quarterbacks, you got to stack your plays. Like, you get one completion and it's like, all right, let's do that again. So I think that's helped Sudfeld, and I think it's going to help Trey Lance going forward for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it really is with Trey, right? It's almost at a microscopic level, just stacking play by play by play. Then that will translate to day by day by day, then week by week. And then all of a sudden we're looking at potentially one of the better quarterbacks in the league. We did see Debo on the field with Trey today, but they didn't seem to be able to connect too well on those deep passes. And they stayed after practice today to work on some of those. What did you see from that, Jason, in that regard? Do you think that's something to be concerned about, or is that just two guys that haven't played a whole lot of ball together, just figuring it out?
Debo Samuel better watch his back. Willie Snead just signed. He's coming for you, pal. He's coming for your spot, pal. That's a joke, but obviously Willie Snead did sign, and honestly, we did get a chance to watch him. He was actually really good running routes after. But yeah, I think it's more about timing and things like that. Like, when everybody was excited about Brandon Ayuk, it was because of Trey Lance and because of how much they worked. And when you get to the point where Debo hasn't really worked with Lance, he was out of camp for a while in terms of working on the field. All that stuff is going to come with a matter of time. It's going to come with, I need to learn what I like from you as a route runner, what you need to do on certain routes, those things. It's all going to come with time. I wouldn't be overly concerned with that. And yes, the Lance to Ayuk thing is real, but Ayuk is playing at a different level at this point right now, and he is playing better. But it does just so happen to help that he and Lance have a good rapport working together. And I think that'll just come with time with Debo. I'm not overly concerned with it at all. But yeah, there was a deep ball, one in particular. Emmanuel Moseley had great coverage. I want to make sure that I say that as well, too. Emmanuel Moseley was like on his hip. Maybe there was a lane to throw it, maybe there wasn't, but I wasn't overly concerned with that. And I think that'll come with time.
And you're absolutely right. The 49ers did sign wide receiver Willie Snead, former Ravens, former Saints. He's been all over the place. Steph, you were watching him work out. You were the one who actually pointed it out. We were sitting there in the stands, and you're like, what the heck is going on over here? Is this a workout? And I'm like, you're absolutely right. There's literally a quarterback, two wide receivers. There's the GM. There's Adam Peters. I was like, I've never seen this before. What did you take away from kind of the workout? And do you think Willie Snead actually has an opportunity to make this team?
Yeah, I definitely think that Snead does. And I think there were reports even in the offseason that the 49ers were interested in him at some point. So I could definitely see that connection. And man, I didn't even know at first that Dede Westbrook was out there too. Like, yeah, right. I saw your post. Like, I didn't even notice that because I would have been excited.
I knew someone else was out there, but I was like, who is that?
Right. Right, because like I'm a uh Westbrook fan, so but I like Snead as well. He did look pretty good, and given the fact that the quarterback wasn't all that great, he was still making some good like adjustments out there to make sure he caught the ball, which I really liked. So I think it's a good signing, and he could potentially make the team. This wide receiver room's pretty deep, but there's potential out there, veteran presence.
What did you see from Trey and Debo today? Are you concerned at all, or do you think that's just par for the course?
I'm choosing not to be concerned about it. I mean, it's obvious to me that the time away from the team, like Debo's still trying to get his groove back, trying to get into a consistent rhythm. And I say, I put an emphasis on consistent because it's not like they haven't been connected on anything at all. So I don't want this to get like overblown or anything like that. This whole like Debo and Trey Lance talk. I do just think it's going to be a matter of time. It's going to be a matter of them getting more snaps together, and that'll come with time. Ayuk, of course, as we know, has been working out with Trey Lance this entire offseason, so they're like lock and step on everything. So Debo Samuel has some catching up to do, but I have no doubt that he's going to get there, especially if they're taking the time after practice to work on those things. You always love to see that if there are any things that aren't, perfect, they're going to work on it after practice. So at least we got to see that after.
Absolutely. And shout out Toby Riviera for the $20 super chat. It says Trey and Brandon equals 9 touchdowns this season. Go Niners. And you kind of transitioned into Brandon Ayuk. Jason, Brandon Ayuk got that dog in him, doesn't he?
Are you on mute, Jay?
You muted, my boy.
Toby, I want to. The question I want to ask is, why are you so low on Brandon Ayuk this year with only 9 touchdowns? Like, what's the deal with that, man? Like,
it doesn't fit the propaganda mold.
We gotta think bigger, man. No, look, Brandon Ayuk continues. I mean, again, he doesn't have to get the ball to continue to cook this whole training camp. He's open all the time. Whether he gets the ball or not is one thing, but one thing is for sure: a lot of people are having problems covering Brandon Ayuk. I don't want to be a NFL DB on the other side trying to guard him at this point. I mean, Quantrez Knight didn't have the best day today, but there was the big bomb touchdown. Brandon Ayuk ran right past him, and it's harder and harder for these guys to guard him. And NFL DBs got to watch out. Like I'm getting to the point that we're here at day 8. I don't want to talk about Brandon Ayuk anymore. Like, this is going to be a reoccurring thing. This is not a flash in the pan. He's going to continue this for 12 more practices, however long camp is going to go. So if you're here for Ayuk propaganda, I will placate you with that. But I also want to tell you, I want to stop talking about it because it's not bad. It's just getting boring now at this point, man. All he's doing is just winning every time, man. I don't know. It's getting kind of hard to watch these secondary guys stick with him. It's all just boring stuff.
Well, it might be boring to you, but I gotta ask Steph. She's been at training camp this whole time. What have you seen from Brandon Ayuk and in his progression? Like it's been insane, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And like kind of like what Jay's saying, not that I was bored by Ayuk today, but it was a quiet day for him compared to the others. And that's not to say that it wasn't good. Like, he was still really good. It's just the fact that, we're so used to seeing these ooh and ah plays from him, and he just honestly, him going against Ambry Thomas, I don't even know why they're putting Ayuk in the second team sometimes to like continue playing against Ambry Thomas, because it's just not fair at this. It's borderline abuse, honestly, at this point. I wouldn't want to be Ambry Thomas. Like Jay was saying, these DBs got to watch out. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely expecting a big year from Ayuk, and a lot of people have asked, these are practices. Are these really going to translate all of these things that we're saying about all these players? And I can tell you with, a lot of confidence that for Brandon Ayuk, what we've seen from him, yeah, this is definitely going to translate to the regular season without a doubt.
Brandon Ayuk stonks to the moon right now. It's unbelievable what he is doing, to the point where the man that is leading the hype train is bored with talking about Brandon Ayuk. Unbelievable.
It's not that it's bad. It's just bored. No. So look, again, remember when we go back to how numbers look and everybody's worried about numbers? Well, today, Brandon Ayuk caught 1 or 2 passes today. And you would say, man, he had a bad day. No, he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah.
And that's again why people get too wrapped up in, well, what are his training camp numbers? What was his numbers in this period? Yeah, that's fine. That should be one piece of the puzzle. But Brandon Ayuk was consistently winning, being open, like down the field. And just because he didn't get the ball doesn't mean that he's not separating. He's doing exactly what he's done every other day. And it's not boring. It's just consistent. Now you can set your watch to it, which is something that can be boring because people will lose sight of how good it is when it's like players like LeBron, right? LeBron will put up triple double, and everybody's just like, yeah, whatever, it's LeBron. That's where it's starting to get right now with these practices with Brandon Ayuk. It's like, yeah, he's getting open. Now you're just getting bored with it because you're starting to think that you expect it, and that's fair because he's just been that good.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And, kind of what we talked about earlier, we started to see the offensive line working a little bit better again. We understand some of the guys were out in the middle, but not only were we seeing some good pass protection, but we were also seeing some runs break off, and we were seeing some emergence from some of the running backs not named Jordan Mason. Steph, what did you see from the running backs today that stood out to you?
I thought Elijah Mitchell, like for one, had a really good day. Like, I mean, it's not that he was having, bad days, but it's clear he's
Kind of
entrenched as
quiet,
the
right?
yeah, kind of quiet, like nothing, absolutely insane. But to me, he's entrenched as the RB1. Obviously, he's been rolling with the first team like almost exclusively. So, and on during one-on-ones period, he had one of the first snaps I think was a good pass pro rep that he had going one-on-one versus Fred Warner, which caught my eye. So he's good in that department as well. And yeah, he was able to get some really big runs. Actually, even the first play out of 11 on 11s in the second 11 on 11 session was, hold on. Yep, it was like that Mitchell touchdown that he
Mhm.
would have had a touchdown on where he broke free right through the middle. So yeah, Mitchell looks good. I mean, Trey Sermon we're mentioning, like he's been looking better. And then TDP. I mean, I thought because he started off someone who was really slow, where like you weren't hearing his name really at all, like get mentioned. And these last few practices, I think he's been able to stack his days, and today was another like pretty solid day for him. So that's always good to see.
Yeah, we were watching practice with the great Eric Crocker, and we were kind of giving him the lowdown of what we've seen so far, kind of about TDP. And I don't know, TDP must have heard us, Jason, because he came out and had his best training camp day thus far.
Put it like this: Croc's never gonna listen to us ever again because we were just like, hey man, I don't know about TDP. He's not playing well. He's like, well, that was a nice run. He was like, well, that was a nice run. Well,
He
that was a
kept
nice
looking
run.
over like, what?
And I was
What are you
like,
talking about?
of course, dude. I was like, the day you pull up is the day that TDP breaks out. Look, the one thing that you want to focus on are those runs, and those are the sort of things that you kind of saw. But what kind of jumped out at me, and the quickest way for you to get in a doghouse was TDP whiffed on a one-on-one pass rep against DFF, and I use TDP and DFF because I want to separate the people who know this team and from the people who just want me to spell out their names. I am tweeting. I don't have time to type out Tyrion Davis Price and Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. It's TDP and DFF, and if you can't catch up, blame yourself. But yes, DFF had a really good rep, and it was a sack. Now, that's the quickest way for you to get off the field in that way. Jeff Wilson Jr. did a great job talking about doing pass blocking. I saw that as well, too, early on. But yeah, TDP had great moments today. Today, I don't think it's a stretch to say that today was his best practice, but this was far and away Elijah Mitchell's best day. Ripping off run after run. He looks strong. He looks big. He had a great day today. It really just goes hand in hand with how well the offensive line played today on both teams, by the way. It wasn't just the first team. It was first and second team. How much of that has to do with who wasn't on the field, Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa. We get that, but at the same time, you're looking for those progress steps, those baby steps. Today, TDP had a really good day, but it was far and away Elijah Mitchell's best day. I would go as far as saying he was the best offensive player today on the field, including Brandon Ayuk, because every time he touched the ball, it looked like he was going for good gains.
Absolutely. Let's switch over to the defensive side. Um, Anything on the defensive side stand out to you today, Steph? Whether it's an individual performance, kind of the overall kind of mood of today. Again, we had the big fight breakout last week. Didn't feel like it was as chippy or as crazy today. What did you see from the defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a quieter day for them. I don't think they got any takeaways today. I mean, the one thing that I've been, mentioning is that it's clear that takeaways are big part of what this defense is going to bring this year. Regardless of them not getting, any interceptions today, any 11 on 11s. But, looking at some of the drills that they've been doing, definitely looks like a point of emphasis, which I'm very excited about because as good as this defense has been, that's not always been their greatest, something that they've done a lot. I always feel like they could have been better at getting the takeaways. So I'm really excited to see that. Let's see here. So looking at some of I always pay attention to that. So I call it the gimme drill, the one where Kyle Shanahan throws the ball at like the DBs and the linebackers because it is a
Yep.
gimme drill. Like he's basically throwing at them like it's easy stuff. So I saw Huff get an interception there. Mosley, a lot of the time, coach is throwing it right at him. Sometimes not, we saw Mosley get a pass breakup as well. So, these guys are I think learning to get after the ball. And one guy who has been standing out, not so much today, like I didn't see him really flash too much, but he's been pretty consistent throughout camp is Lenoir actually. He's someone that, not being in first team still is making some plays out there. And I think he's someone I've had my eye on because he's been getting after the ball. So I like the way Lenoir has looked so far.
Absolutely. What about you, Jason? Before we get into that, Toby says, okay, Jason, Brandon will have the most touchdown catches on the team with 12, I think is what he was trying to say.
Toby, thank you for your generosity, first of all. But yeah, 12 is a good place to start right there. And again, like we joke a lot. Nine was fair. I'm just kidding with you and stuff like that. So like there's that joke floating around on Twitter. 1,000 catches for Brandon Ayuk, 10,000 yards, 10,000 touchdowns. But that's how well he's been playing. Is that people throw it out there and we joke around like that's too low. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the number at the end of the day. But yeah, go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry.
What about you though? Defensively, what have you seen from today?
Today was good. I mean, Kevin Gibbons had a run stuff that I thought was really good. There was a play where Trey went one way, turned around. Ward was in his face. I think the coverage was as good as ever. I think Travis Ward is still doing what he's doing. I mean, it's pretty much par for the course at this point. Defensive line wasn't as ferocious today for obvious reasons. No Kinlaw, no Bosa. That's fine. But the defense will still be able to hold up if, God forbid, those guys weren't going to be out there. So I didn't really see too much that was like game-changing or anything like that in terms of who stood out, but the defense is just as good as they are. I mean, they're obviously missing those players, but they're just as good as they are. No hold up, especially with DeMeco was kind of playing some games a little bit today, like with throwing some blitzes in there and stuff like that. So he'll get creative depending on personnel and depending on what he has to compensate for on the back end. So that's the reason that everybody's so hype on his defense is yes, personnel, but yes, DeMeco Ryans is going to put all those guys in position to win.
I saw Samuel Womack sacked today. I thought that was pretty nice to see. It feels like Samuel Womack, 5th-round pick out of Toledo, is getting more and more run. He's kind of got that Diamador Lenoir build too, like kind of the smaller slot-style cornerbacks, but scrappy, physical, and can really come off the edge pretty good. Anything from today and or the overall training camp practices that you can really look forward to against Chicago? Like, do we think that this team is constructed in a way where Chicago feels like it's going to be going up against the twos or it's going to be going up against the B team for the 49ers? Does it look like, maybe taking a step forward, like the 49ers are, even though the offense, is going up against a pretty stout defense, feels like it's a true iron sharpening iron situation. How do you kind of see that translating into the season with preseason around the corner? I'll start with you, Steph.
Okay. I mean, I think for sure the defense is going to be the main focus and what's really going to propel this team into wins, especially in those first few weeks where the team overall has some easier matchups going into this season, and so I think it's going to be all defense, and they'll need that, right? Because Trey Lance is going to be, still getting used to the speed of the game and starting an entire game. So I think the defense is what's gonna really propel them, and the fact that I'm excited for the Bears game because I honestly don't think that Bears offense is going to be much of a match for this defense. The only thing that would kind of worry me is Fields' running ability, which has kind of been the Achilles heel of this defense, in the last couple years. So it'll be interesting how they handle that, especially because like we honestly haven't seen a whole lot of Trey Lance running the ball in training camp. So I don't know if this defense has gotten a lot of real preparation against that. But overall, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of teams in the NFL that are going to have a chance, really against this defense.
Is Justin Fields going to be running for his life come week 1, Jason?
Yes. Did you hear what his offensive line coach said today and the coach said today when they asked him about
please tell me.
Do you have an offensive line rotation? And he flat out said no. Like he was just and it's like they don't have an idea at this point. So if we're talking about week 1, flat out,
no,
yeah, like this, and they're talking about moving on from a recent draft pick, someone they just drafted and trying to trade him. So like this line is kind of in shambles right away. And again, the 49ers, for all intents and purposes, had actually done a great job lately against running quarterbacks. And I think it started with the first Kyler Murray game where D'Amico did a good job of making him set the edge, but also making him step up. Kyler Murray, step up. But when you're stepping up and there's a guy in the middle there at this point, he only had, I believe, like 14 rushing yards in that game. I'm not necessarily worried about that, at all. And then when you're talking about on the back end, I mean, unless you're worried about some Dante Pettis resurgence, Darnell Mooney's a baller. I will give him that. But this secondary can cover anybody. So, yeah, it's going to get to a point where, yeah, you know what? The 49ers, it is iron sharpening iron. like Lance is going to see a defense that isn't as good as this team, and he's going to look around and say, wow, guys are open. Guys aren't in my face. And this on the defensive side, wow, this offensive line is actually giving way more than right now, especially today, than this offensive line has. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't make that you wouldn't jump to that conclusion when it comes to the way that their roster is constructed, especially when I read that today and the coach said, we don't have a line that right now that we're like solid on. Godspeed. Like, do you know what descends upon you on week 1? So,
yep, absolutely. Gammon says it's F them picks. Steph, what up? So today felt like a ramp-up day, kind of, right? Because you had the day off the previous day. You get the first day back in pads. No, the star-studded defensive line didn't really participate too much. McGlinchey had some reps, but he took a lot off as well. Do you guys get the sense that tomorrow will be a little bit more of an energized practice? Because based on kind of what you guys saw today, do you feel like, what are you guys looking for tomorrow's practice? Because we're all going to be there, right?
Yeah, tomorrow's my last day, unfortunately.
Oh man.
Don't have too much fun without me, okay? Like, and don't sign too many autographs without me. Like, just don't do that.
So what are you guys looking for tomorrow? I'll start with you, Jason.
I think you're going to see a pick up a little bit. I think that Saturday and Sunday are going to be, ramping up. And I think that's why you saw a little bit of less pads on the day before, the day off. Today was a little bit high impact, but tomorrow is going to be a day where, look, let's face it, during the week, it's hard for people to get off of work and get there. I think they understand Saturday, Sunday, those are going to be the days that fans are going to be there. Dwight Clark Day, those type of things. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if these next 2 practices are a little bit more ramped up, have a little bit more intensity, a little bit more pop. And that's kind of what everybody wants to see because that's just preparation. And it seems like this team is ready to go, ready to get to week 1 already while jumping over the preseason games for some reason. So, yeah, I would probably think these next 2 practices are going to be a little bit more high intensity.
Are you kind of in that same boat, Steph?
Yeah, and you know who I think is gonna be hyping him up? Kim Dichi, man. He's been awesome at like getting the crowd really into it, and he always has a lot of energy. But
Someone get
I'm
that
kind
guy
of
like a lozenge, a cough drop. He's always screaming and yelling at everybody, man. Like goodness gracious.
but
He really is hype.
you know what? Like I kind of wonder if with what I saw from the offense today, which was like them looking way more comfortable. I wonder and I hope that, we can kind of see a changing of the guard in these last, few days of training camp where it's more so the offense that we're talking about being like the strongest bit over the defense because as we mentioned the defense, the first few practices they were always at the advantage because there's just not as much for them to, I guess, prepare for in a sense. So hopefully for the offense, I think with these extra reps now they're starting to get more comfortable. Hopefully they can piece together some better days ahead.
Yeah, so I think we all agree tomorrow will hopefully be a better energy day. Hopefully, a little bit more pop into the pads, especially like it happened earlier this week when all hell broke loose. Um, but so far, it's been a good camp. Like it feels like they're figuring things out in a couple spots, but overall feels like the camp is progressing at a really nice pace. So far, knock on wood, outside of kind of the Matthews injury, there hasn't been a ton of crazy ones out there. Again, knock on wood. I can't knock on enough to make sure I don't jinx that. But it does feel like tomorrow will be a good day, and they'll probably get the guys back and be popping. So I'm looking forward to it. But Jason, Steph, it's been fun. Tell the good people. I'll start with you, Jason. Where can they find more of your content and all that good stuff? You're muted, my boy.
This mute button is whipping my ass. All right, Jason Aponte 2103 on Twitter. If you guys want one more training camp update, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about Trey Lance, so real quick, he was much better today. The protection held up. I felt like he got the ball out quickly. Sure, he overshot somebody down the field. That's fine. It was a Deebo Samuel play. There's going to be those ebbs and flows, ups and downs, everything like that. Today was one of his better days. That's what I wanted to make sure I got out there before. And the only reason that we're kind of ending a little bit quickly doesn't necessarily have to end. I just had to skate. I've got something else that I need to do. But Trey Lance was much better today. One of his better practices. Some would say his best practice today. And there's something about while he's in pads that the throwing the ball looks better. But I felt that he did a great job today. When things were, he had his cleanest pockets. He made some of the sharpest throws that he's made since I've been here. Today was a really good day for Trey Lance. But yeah, Jason Aponte 2103. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. And download wherever you can, Sprint Red Option and Oh Hey There, which is on Niners Nation, wherever you get your audio podcasts.
And what about you, Steph? Where can the people find more Steph content?
Well, one, I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys are some of the best at what you guys do, so I definitely appreciate it. You guys can find me on Twitter at Stragasaurus and on YouTube as well, under the same username. And I go live with my 49 Carats podcast. And for the audio listeners, if you guys prefer audio, 49 Carats podcast is all on the main streaming platforms. And I'll probably be going live on my YouTube shortly after this. So if you guys want to hear a little bit more, can't get enough of that content, check in with me at Stragasaurus on YouTube.
Definitely. I can't wait to get back where we're going to see Jason one more time before he heads back east. I mean, we got a little extra time. We thought he was going to be gone on Wednesday. So we got a little bit of extra run with Jason out here.
We can't get rid of him.
We're going to take advantage of it as much as possible before he gets out of here.
You're gonna have to get this training camp content from my cold dead hands before I just leave that quickly, man. It's just too nice over here. The weather's too good. Too many nice people and everything. It's just this is always the most fun part of I know the season is always the most fun part, but this is always the most fun part for me is like this portion of it. Training camps, just meeting up with people, just talking. It's super fun.
It's been a vibe. Thank you for everyone who's listened and joined us on this training camp journey again. Day 8, day 9 tomorrow. And again, we're going to be doing much more content. So Be strapped in. We'll be back for more. Appreciate everyone